Hey there. Thank you so much for clicking and giving me a chance. And I'm just going to be upfront about this. Can't promise this video won't be slop, but I can promise you it is not going to be AI because I identify as analog American. So this isn't going to be fancy. This isn't going to be frills. This is just me going to be kind of speaking from the heart on something I've been looking at today and hopefully leaving you with a message of encouragement. Okay. And then also, I need to apologize. My dogs are sleeping, so if you hear some bunny chasing in the background, that's what that is. Anyways, um, there's another spat in the media today, and this time it's Megyn Kelly and Mark Levin. And to be honest, I actually don't know, and I don't care what this spat is about. I don't have a dog in that fight simply because I don't give either of them my attention, but this isn't the first time this has happened, and a lot of people are being fed this and missing something in the wider world. So I wanted to address that and maybe give you a bigger picture view of what's going on right now so you can better understand why things like the spats between Megyn Kelly and Mark Levin, or Tucker or Candace and Nick, and however it goes, all of that gets amplified. And before I say that, I'm going to preface this with this. I used to be an atheist. And I used to be one of those arrogant atheists who was like, oh, science and rationality validates my conservative values. So I, as an atheist, would not have believed what I, as a Christian, am about to say. But even I, as an atheist, knew that the media was the enemy of the people. And I have not trusted the media since I was a teenager, and I watched ABC News call Florida for gore while the polls were still open in my Florida Panhandle hometown. So I haven't trusted the media in decades, actually. But I always thought it was because they were purposely being paid to lie. That's the truth. The bigger picture I see now has something to do with Ephesians chapter 6, verses 11 to 12. And allow me to read it out for you right now so I can really make my point here. Paul to the church at Ephesus. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we are not contending against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against the powers, against the world rulers of this present darkness, against the spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. This is going to sound crazy if you're not Christian. This is going to sound crazy even if you are Christian. But here it goes. MSM does not stand for mainstream media. MSM stands for malicious satanic media. I do not say that lightly. And I am not saying it in hyperbole. I am saying it as a legitimate, the media is the enemy of the people, which I knew as an atheist. I now as a Christian know literally the media is the agent of the enemy. And yes, there is a reason that the whole, well, honestly, I was going to say Tucker and all of that, but all of those influencers like Megyn Kelly and Mark Levin and whatever beef they're having right now, there is a reason that they are playing into all of this right now and that the media is amplifying this right now. And number one, because the enemy's first job is to distract us. It is to distract us away from what the truth is. And the truth is always God above, and that Christ took our sins on the cross with him and walks in victory. And our job is to pick up the cross and follow him. That is the truth. Okay. The media's job is to distract us from that with worldly, silly things. Okay. And not only that, but on an earthly level, the media's job is to distract us from that so that we will miss what is happening in the wider world because we're so focused like a cat with the laser pointer on what they want us to look at, like jingling the car keys, or like I just said, a laser pointer. And typically when the media is actually amplifying a feud like that and trying to pull that there's a split in the conservosphere or the magasphere or whatever it is, it's because things are actually going really, really bad for them on the left or for the Democrats, that they really do not want to have to cover that, and they want us distracted by that instead so that they can do their second, which is deceive. Basically assume if their mouths are open, there's a kernel of truth in there with everything wrapped up in misinformation. Okay. They get mad at us and claim that we're spouting misinformation whenever we let out the truth. That is projection on their part. And this is going to sound really crazy if you've never read the Bible, but fake news has been in the Bible since Eve ran into the serpent in the garden. Serpent told her that no, they wouldn't die if they ate the fruit from the tree. In fact, their eyes would be open. I mean, their eyes were open, but the rest of it wasn't true. And the consequences were that we got kicked out of the garden for doing so. So There's that. There's my particular favorite biblical fake news, which is Numbers chapters 13, when 10 of the 12 spies come back from Canaan and say that because they saw Nephilim, they felt that they were grasshoppers. So obviously, the Nephilim and the Canaanites must have seen the Israelites as grasshoppers, which the Israelites chose to believe instead of listening to Josh and Caleb, who were like, yeah, we got a little battle ahead of us, but God's on our side, so we got this. That is the reason we wound up wandering in the desert for 40 years. Please go read that for yourself, actually. And then my particular favorite, I will probably get in a little trouble for admitting or thinking about this one, but I've been reading through the Gospels since it is the Lenten season, and I was reading Matthew chapter 28 the other day. And I couldn't help but thinking how my local news anchor would have covered the news of Christ rising. Because in chapter 28, it is actually written that the scribes and the elders, the Pharisees, actually concocted a story that the disciples came and stole Jesus's body in the night. And that's what happened to it. So I was just thinking of my local news anchor being like, reports of Christ's body rising from the dead have been baseless conspiracy theories. Yeah. Anyways, my point is fake news is in the Bible. I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying it's there so that we can know we need to test the spirits and we need to learn to discern at who is giving us our information. And first things first, we always trust God first. I didn't know that as an atheist. I thought we could trust humans, which is part of my problem. But now that I'm a Christian and I know that God is there for us and he's merciful and loving, if willing to let us face the consequences of our actions, now that I have that truth, I feel so much better. Trust me. Now, that said, deceive, distract. And why are they doing that? Because they want to divide us. They want this to be race war. They want this to be class war. They want this to be religious war. They want it to be everything but us noticing and properly identifying that this is America First Patriots versus the Uniparty. And one part of that Uniparty actively, openly hates this nation and wants to destroy it. The other half of the Uniparty just wants to stay in power and are willing to roll over and let the part that decide that wants to destroy us do what they want. Democrats and rhinos. I'm just going to say it. And that's why they're so threatened by the fact that we're trying to get in MAGA and America First candidates. That is why they're trying to amplify these beefs and spats going on within the MAGA sphere so that they can demoralize us. If they tell us that enough crap is happening and that it's not even worth it, like our side is splintered and fractured, hopefully to them, not to me, hopefully for them, all of us will sit out the midterms and they can continue stealing this nation and destroying it. This entire spat is being amplified by the media, which is openly the enemy of the people and working for the enemy. I cannot emphasize that enough. And if you're watching this saying, oh, well, I do work in the media, or if you're watching this going, oh, no, I know people who work in the media and they're perfectly nice people. They may be perfectly nice, so to speak, but Jezebel couldn't get away with what she got away with without an Ahab around her to let her do it. Okay, that ugly, deceptive spirit needs a conduit. And I'm sorry, your person in the media that you're friends with, or you in the media, you're working for the spiritual enemy. You are not here to deliver the truth. You are here to deliver a little seed of truth delivered and wrapped up in a narrative so that we cannot actually function as a proper populace together. You are the enemy. The media is the enemy of the people. So think of it right now, even though there are some disagreements on the conservative sphere or the conservative side, that's actually healthy dialogue. There's a difference between spats, like they're trying to amplify, and actual healthy dialogue where we can figure out where we can find common ground in our disagreements so that we can start making progress and moving forward. There's a reason that so many people are quitting the left and are quitting the Democrats and coming over. And as such, suddenly the independent and right side has a wide variety of opinions. And if you're about to go, oh no, Democrats are better at being free thinkers. Well, remember how a few months after the election, like all of a sudden everyone in Blue Sky started complaining that it was just an annoying echo chamber because anyone who maybe dissented to an opinion here or there got kicked off the platform? I'm just saying. Okay? I'm just saying that. Now, I want to say this too. Just because they don't, whoever you're watching, whoever you're giving your attention to, doesn't work for the MSM, does not mean they're not working for someone or for a faction of the MSM. Okay, Megyn Kelly, Mark Levin, Tucker, all of those who went independent off of the MSM, or some of those who started as independent from the MSM, are still a little bit part of it and are not as truly independent as they want to let you know. So the second part of this spiritual battle is, like I said earlier, you have to learn to discern. They're going to use the D's of deceive, distract, demoralize, divide. We have to use the D's of discernment and giving back to them all they deserve, which is pretty much just derision. Okay, so learn to discern, learn to test. You can, I mean, occasionally either Megan or Mark or Tucker or Candace will make a valid point that I do agree with, but if I find a lot else that I find a bit objective in there, then I'm not going to give them my time, because I know their job is to influence. And influencing is manipulating. It's insidious, and it's not necessarily for the best agenda, okay? I said all that to say this. I want to encourage you. I want to encourage you not to be listening to the media, because when you start to close that out, your mindset and your ability to focus on Christ and on God above actually becomes a lot easier. I'm not saying you don't have to pay attention to current events. I'm not saying you don't have to a headline and be like, I'm just saying, don't let what they are trying to sell you be what you believe. And that goes as much for these independent media sources who may actually be posing as influencers in the long run, as it does with the malicious satanic media corporate figureheads, okay? All the way up at corporate, all the way down to local, all the way on to people on X and YouTube and all of these social media platforms. I'm just saying, learn to discern. And I'm just saying, first things first, just remember that God is great and Christ already won. Ignore any other static that they may be trying to use on you, and don't ever let it discourage you. Don't think you should quit simply because what the media is telling you is not what you think it should be happening right now. Okay? Because you've been seeing that happening bigly with President Trump and the things he's been trying to enact, and it's because they are threatened. Not President Trump, but the Uniparty is threatened by everything he and we are trying to do. So we should take it as a compliment, personally. And we should also still stay active, and we should still keep going and keep fighting, and not let this stupid static and these stupid beefs and these stupid spats divide us when we can respectfully disagree with each other, figure out our common ground, and keep moving forward from that. Okay. I also, because I do kind of want to encourage a little bit of reading. Number one, you're going to have to go to a used bookstore for this one, but if you're able to ever score a copy of Bernard Goldberg's Bias, Bernard Goldberg is as liberal as I am conservative, but there's a lot of things he speaks about that we actually have some common ground on. But he actually exposes the insidious tactics that the media uses to actually distort what's going on in the news. You know who else does? Cheryl Atkinson. Okay? I think you'll actually be able to find her in a bookstore because she's more recent. Bernard Goldberg published that in 2002. So he was speaking at least 2 decades and some change ago about what's going on in the media. Got some Greg Jarrett. That's also really good reading right there. I know you're probably looking at the Rush Limbaugh behind me, and I'm just going to say I don't agree with everything he said, but man, was he funny. And also, most of what he said was right and effective, and that's why he threatened everybody so much. I still discern, and I still say that there are things about Rush Limbaugh that I disagree with, but man, was I so happy for him to have as a voice. And that is how we should be looking at it. Like, we have voice. Maybe we can use our own. Maybe we can start talking, but more importantly, maybe we can start respectfully dialoguing with each other and shutting out what it is the media is trying to do to us. That's what I'm trying to encourage you with today. So I started with Ephesians, kind of went through, Numbers and Genesis, Numbers, Matthew, but I want to end with a little bit of Philippians, which Paul wrote in prison. Well, technically he was under house arrest, but rejoice in the Lord always. Rejoice in the Lord. Rejoice at him in the good times, rejoice in the storms, rejoice because no matter what, we're going to make it. So just rejoice in it, because he's going to call us home one day. And our job is to kind of help other people get there. And if starting with going, hey, we need to not believe the media so much, we need to really go into biblical truth to figure this out, that's where we start. So you made it through all that. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I just want to encourage you. Life is beautiful. It is a gorgeous day out there. If you're not dead, you're not done. So get out, touch grass, interact with people in person and just love it. I hope that makes sense. And I do hope you have a beautiful rest of the day, and God bless.